Hello, everybody. James here. Storytime with Dutch Mantell, episode 164. Goodness me. By the way, everything I told you, Dutch, I forgot to mention this before we were recording. Keep it under your hat because I may have an announcement in March.
Okay, folks. Big announcement coming in March.
Yeah, maybe. Or I might not. Anyway. So, the intro is, let's do the quick one. Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2Ls at gmail.com. That's where you get all your signed dirty. I nearly call you Dirch. Dirty Dutch Mantell merchandise, signed books, signed WCW trading cards, and signed diplomas as well for the University of Dutch. And also questions for Dutch at gmail.com. That is the email that you use, and so many of you have used that I'm still about 200 questions behind. You know, we're still fielding questions from before Christmas.
Really?
Yes. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm doing my best to catch up on all the questions, but goodness me, there was a lot of them. And we kind of were off a couple of weeks here and there. But we will get to the best ones eventually. I think we're about December 20th. So if you've emailed afterwards, we've not even got to your question yet, but do bear with us. But once again, questions for Dutch at gmail.com. That's how you submit your questions for future episodes of Ask Dutch Anything every Sunday. Right, let's get to the show, Dutch. Before we say anything else, you knew this fella well. I believe he was 93. He passed away. Frankie Cain, the great Mephisto. So you knew him. Did you say you were roommates with him once, or am I misremembering?
At one time, yeah.
Right, give us all you know.
I had just started not just started, but it was in probably my first year in the wrestling profession.
Okay. Well, how did you end up getting hooked with him? Was he just a wrestler, or he wasn't working in the office, was he? Because
No, he was managing. And I used to ride up and down the road with him. Oh, he had some great stories. I wish I could recall some of them now. But he was like one of the early pioneers of wrestling down in the southern United States, the great Mephisto. Because he had wrestled at one time, I'm sure, as Frankie Cain. And then he went as the great Mephisto, and he dressed up like a Muslim character. Now, this was before the days I knew anything about the Muslims at all. But he got a lot of heat standing around, like in that, whatever they wear, and that thing on their head. And he would say something, people didn't know. And he told me about some of the riots that he had caused and uprisings from the fans. And he was good. And I can't remember him now, but good guy, knew a lot about wrestling. And I, like I said, that's how I learned the wrestling profession, was riding with these guys, talking with them, and them saying, well, and they would watch, if I rode with them, they'd usually, watch the match I had that night. Then on the way back, they'd say, well, why don't you do that a little more and this a little less? And every trip I took was basically a training class on the way back. Not always, but a lot of times. And if I had any questions, that's when I would ask them, because they were in a talking mood anyway. Because after the match, you're relaxing, you're going back, the guy has a beer or two, and, then you start talking. That's when you get most of your instruction.
He went to his first wrestling show, in 1938, pre-World War II. I believe that he got his start actually wrestling.
That's 90 years ago.
Yeah, almost, yeah. So he must have been, very young. And I believe he got his start in the business when it was still in the carnival days, taking on all comers. Can you believe?
I believe that.
So he was one of the big stars of like the 50s and 60s. I don't know if the Great Mephisto predated the Sheik, but I think the Great Mephisto may have been the first one to use fire in wrestling, blowing the fire. And if not, he was one of the first at the very least, and, doing the loaded boot and all that kind of thing. At some point, he ended up being like a bit of a Sheik ripoff, but then he'd invented certain things as well. But yeah, he was a real pioneer as well. Apparently, he'd also once wrestled Jim Londis as well, just to show how
Really?
far. Yeah, just to show how far he goes back.
Well, if he told me that he had wrestled Jim Londis back when I was riding with him, I would have looked at him and says, okay. You know why? Because I didn't know who Jim Londis was. I didn't even know the history of pro wrestling to like 10, 15 years later. I knew it came from the carnival. I knew that's where the language comes from. I knew all that. But see, a lot of wrestlers I rode with, hell, they couldn't even tell you their name, let alone a history. So you can imagine how some of those conversations went. But Frankie Cain, nice guy, and he passed away.
Yeah, 93 years old. Yeah.
And when did he pass away? I didn't know that.
Yesterday, I guess. There was a post on Facebook.
Recently.
Yeah, very recent. So on Monday. Yeah, so yesterday as we record this.
Well, I'll be damned. All right, Mr. Mephisto, thank you very much. I enjoyed your company, and rest in peace.
I want to give a couple more things and ask you questions for. So I think he was one of the most famous things he did was a manager for the Infernos. So We're talking back in the 60s or so there, and they were a huge tag team in the day. A couple of questions. Any memories of the Infernos and any specific memories of how good a manager the great Mephisto was as well? Because there's very little footage out there of him. So, I mean, how good was he? What was some of his shtick? You know, praying, rolling out the mats and praying to Mecca and all that kind of thing as well.
Well, that got a lot of heat, but the people, you couldn't even do that gimmick today. You could not do it. Because I think the blowback on it would be so massive that you just couldn't do it. That's why when's the last time WWE has had a Muslim character?
It was 20 years ago. It wasn't Jinder Mahal, but it was Muhammad Hassan. Muhammad Hassan, and they took him off TV and basically killed his career because of their own booking.
Well, I think that Mephisto was a great manager. He knew how to get heat. Again, we're talking a different era. You take a guy now to go out there and try to get heat, people laugh at him. See, because heat has to actually come from, they got to actually believe you're believing what you're saying. But if the Muslim character went out there and say he really believed this, the TV station wouldn't let him do it because it's really that hot, especially right now. So, anyway, he was a good guy.
With the Infernos, any memories of the Infernos that you can bring to us?
I heard about some of the riots they started. It was wild. And they drew a lot of money. Of course, drawing money back then, that's only relative anyway to the times you're in. They drew a lot of people. Let me say that they drew a lot of fans, and they had a lot of sellouts. But I think mostly they were strong in the southern area mostly. I think in the Carolinas, I think Georgia, and possibly Florida. But I don't think the Infernos, they didn't have that long of a run, really, as a team. I think maybe 5 years. I may be wrong. But I don't remember them having a really long. And when you talk about great wrestlers down south, you never hear anybody say the Infernos. You just don't hear them say that. I don't know why. It
says 9 years active, so 65 to 74. I guess that there was like 5 different Infernos.
Yeah, there were a lot of them.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on to the more recent. Well, I mean, it was recent news, but we're going to come up to date with WWE now. So the men's Royal Rumble match. What do you make of it then, ultimately? Because I think the show, once again, it had its highs and lows. It ended on a pretty good high. I think the men's one was actually really well paced for what it was, even though it might not have been the most star-studded or anything like that. But you saw it. What do you think? Anyone who stood out to you?
Well, first of all, let me preface my comments by saying I hate those matches. I don't. It's
Why?
it's so hard to put together, and you don't know whether you got a flow or not in the match by just talking about it. The only way you'll know is when you get out there in front of the people. Of course, and how many 20 guys in it or more?
No, 30.
30 guys in it. If you want to know a cluster, sometimes it can end up you're losing yourself. You're chasing your head, then to find out you're chasing your tail. So you don't really know what's going on. And when it's time for you to lay out, you go over in the corner and the guy's choking you, and you take a little rest, and then you go back. And I always hated being in them too. Hell, 6-man battle royal was hard enough. So imagine back in the days when I was working, you know how long we had to put that match together, how long they gave us?
About 5 minutes.
Yeah, about 10 maybe. And say, well, we'll do this and this and this and this, and we'll do that and go home, okay? And go home means we'll finish the match. We'll wrap it up. So, and a lot of people, they hear the name, a lot of would-be wannabe bookers, they put it down, oh, that's a great name. Well, we'll use this. Well, you can use it. You can use the name. But then when they see the match, they'll leave saying, that sucked. And then somebody else says, sucked. It wasn't that good. So, but I never liked them. I don't even like to watch them that much. I like to watch the finish. So if they can run 28 guys in there and then run them out in like 5 minutes, then leave, and then we'll have the match. That's what I'd do.
Well, some of the people who came out there, who do you think sort of stood out or looked impressive enough?
How long was Bron Breakker in there?
Like 10 seconds.
Yeah. And that's the best thing to do with him. Let him get out before he walks around for 15 minutes and does nothing. And that's the best way to see. And doing him like that saves him. Because the people, if they're looking for a justification for it, they say, well, it was a bad day, or it was this, or it was that. So just get him out of the way. So when people say, was Bron Breakker in it? They say, yeah, but he didn't last long. And that's it. I don't even think it hurts him. Huh. I mean, not winning the Royal Rumble doesn't hurt anybody, really. I think it helps everybody to a degree. But I don't know.
You've got to be disappointed, though, if you're Bron Breakker or Matt Cardona or Rusev, and you've got to flag, how many hours across, and then do all the meet and greets and photo opportunities, and then you actually performing for about 20 seconds. That's got to be a tiny bit disheartening, if nothing else.
Well, as a wrestler, that's your job. And sometimes you get that. And then when you ask, this is the deal. When you do something, they ask you to do something, or they don't ask you, they tell you, but they say it's in the form of asking. If they ask you to do something, the best thing you can say is, yep, let me go do it. Let me do it the best I can. But some guys, you tell them, you're going to take them out in 20 seconds, and they go, oh, man. They go back to like they're 7 years old. They go, oh, man, really? Why so soon? Why so quick? Well, and this is where you get the agents learning to double talk. They say, oh, yeah, but the way I hear it, they got this big thing planned for you, blah, blah, blah. Oh, really? Really? Oh, yeah. And I think you're going to be ready to go in about a month, okay? Oh, great. So the guy walks away, eager to do what you've asked him to do. And then nothing happens because the guy just basically flat out lied just to get you to do it. So, and then when you bring it up about 2 weeks later, you say, hey, aren't I supposed to be getting this big angle? And he said, who said that?
Plans change.
So-and-so said it. I hadn't heard nothing about it. So when the guy finds out it's all bullshit, bullcrap, and that's one of the things you learn about in wrestling. Don't believe everything you hear.
One of the big debuts, they had some weird debuts. I mean, not debuts, but people who turned up. 2 guys from AAA, so Mr. Iguana and like an emaciated version of La Parka from AAA Mexico. They don't get AAA, anyway. So they just sat there in silence when these 2 guys came out there. But another guy who they sat in silence for because they don't get AEW is Powerhouse Hobbs. He debuted.
Mm-hmm.
And on the screen, it said Powerhouse Hobbs. And I remember looking at it thinking, oh, thank goodness they kept his name. And then the Powerhouse Hobbs frittered away. And then Royce Keys turns up instead in the name. And Powerhouse Hobbs, Royce Keys now, walks down to silence because nobody knows who the guy is. It's like, why would you debut somebody in a country where you know that the competition doesn't run and you've done like no hype videos for?
Are you expecting an answer to that?
Kind of.
This is my best answer. It's WWE, is all I can say. Sometimes they do things, when you think about it long term, Powerhouse Hobbs coming out, you say his name was floating and then disappeared, and then the other name came in.
Mm-hmm.
That's really a good way. That's, I wouldn't say it's genius, but since he got no response whatsoever, because they didn't know who he was. But I don't know why they do stuff like that, why they put him in, and how long did he last?
About 10 minutes or so.
Did he do anything worth noting?
Yeah, a couple of eliminations. He faced off briefly with Cody Rhodes, so they were saying, they weren't saying, oh, it's a brand new guy coming in, although he is a brand new guy coming in. But then they only, for a tiny bit, only slightly hinted that he and Cody Rhodes wrestled in AEW. But then they moved on straight away. So, oh, these 2 guys know each other, and then they move on.
They mentioned AEW?
No, they only mentioned that Powerhouse, and Cody Rhodes had an on-screen issue in AEW. But they didn't mention the company. They just said, okay, oh, these 2 know each other from the past. That's it.
Okay. So do you think they're still going by that, don't mention our competitors' names at all?
Yeah, totally. Kind of legitimizes the competitor if they don't want to mention their names, I guess. But hey, I mean, if they mention the names on WWE TV, then maybe the Saudi Arabian crowd would know who they were.
Mm-hmm. So AEW is not anywhere in Saudi Arabia.
No, I mean you can always find videos online, of course, but no, they don't have a broadcast television deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, but Powerhouse Hobbs is what'd they do with him on Raw?
Oh, nothing. He's not been assigned to a show yet, but he wasn't on Raw.
Okay.
He'll probably be on NXT, I think. That's my guess anyway. We'll get to the name change in a bit, but my theory was, Dutch, is, he's a big guy in AEW, and his name was Powerhouse Hobbs, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But in WWE, he's not as big.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if WWE were kind of aware that, because they had Obafemi in there. Later on, they'd have, you guys like Brock Lesnar and loads, Bronson Reed, that kind of guy. And like Powerhouse Hobbs doesn't stand out as much in WWE. So how do you sort of overcome that, I guess? Do you get away from the strength aspect?
Well, you got to get away from that, especially if guys are as big as he is and allegedly as strong as he is. But see, that only works when the people compare you to another guy. If you're bigger, you're more muscular, then you can do the powerhouse thing. You can let that work for you. But if you go in the ring against a big, powerful guy, you can't do it. So therefore, you're only as you're only as over compared to the size of your competitor. But and I think Powerhouse or Royce, which is that's a different change in tones and names from Powerhouse to what's his name, Royce Keys.
Mm-hmm.
To me, Royce Keys is a guy from Harvard, a guy from Princeton or Ivy League school. That's what I would associate with a name like Royce. So, but we'll see what he does. He's got the talent, and I think how much charisma does he have?
Decent. I don't think his promos are the best, so I guess that's where you really got to work on it.
Yeah, he can get better on that. But I wish him all the luck in the world, and let's see where he goes.
Yeah,
you saw him first at the Rumble.
Yeah, the thing is, I'll compare this. You remember a few months ago, Jeff Cobb turned up, huge guy from Japan.
Yeah.
And then when he turned up, they changed his name to JC Mateo and then dumped him in a group that was already faltering, really. And he doesn't really stand out for his size anymore. You know what I mean? So I'm wondering if it's just going to be another JC Mateo kind of thing, like an unwelcome name change, and you can't rely on your size as a selling point anymore because you're with the WWE and there are too many people bigger than you.
But isn't the one of the qualities of WWE is the ability to predict and to project how big this guy can become? So why bring him in if you think there's any doubt about him at all, or he's just a big guy?
I don't know. Well, I think apparently he signed. He turned down a huge money deal from AEW because he wanted to try his luck in WWE. And, he left in, without burning any bridges. So, worst comes to worst, I'm sure he could go back. But I think it's very much on the creative whether he succeeds or not. It's always on the creative, but very much in this case.
That's everybody. They're at the whim of creative and what they do with him. So we'll see. He's right now, I'm going to consider him an experiment just to see where they are. I don't think creative in WWE, I mean, it's headed by two guys I think that are really, really good at what they do. And that's Road Dogg and that's Triple H. But how much are they with that creative team?
How do you mean?
Who comes up with most of their stuff? The team, or
there's like 1,000 of them. Like most of them are in Connecticut, as best I can tell. Then they've got a core group of like a dozen or so in the writers' room, but then ultimately it's Triple H, and then Bruce Pritchard or Ed Koskey or someone like that, and everyone else is below them.
This is what I miss about WWE is the story within the story. Because you got these guys, and when they cut away, WWE was great at this at one time, and I took it with me to Puerto Rico. I would have my wrestling show, and then I'd have another show going on. Basically, it was outtakes of guys going here and going there, doing this, doing that, wrapping it up, but talking about tonight's show. And it was another, if you leave them on a little, you can leave them on a little cliffhanger, say about 20 minutes into the show, and tell the people, well, we're going to wrap this up toward the end of the show, so stay tuned. So the people are going to stay tuned for that if the match doesn't keep them. A lot of people, if the match is not good, they're going to leave. But if they got a little story and they know it's only like a minute or 2 minutes long, then they're going to stay and see what you come up with. And that's how basically I would have a show going, and I'd have a show going within that show, which is harder to explain than it is to do, but it worked. So I think they need to go back to that and just pulling away. And I also like pulling away from the match and having a guy do an interview, because if you took the camera off the match that's going on and went to the back for an interview, well, I would feel cheated. I think the fans feel cheated because what's going on in the match, whether it's important or not. But if the guy can cut a hell of a promo and put him picture within picture, and you get the best of both worlds. That makes sense?
Yeah. It'd be good if they had more than 4 matches a show as well. All right, then. Let's move on. More Rumble stuff. You mentioned Yes?
I wonder, it's a 3-hour show, right?
Yeah, 2.5 hours Raw. Well, SmackDown's 3, so yeah.
So you only have 4 matches.
I think on Raw, officially, there was 3. Because there was one match that wasn't a match, because there was no bell or pin or anything, but it was a wrestling segment. So I think there was either 3 or 4, yeah.
Well, that's the thing about wrestling. You write it as you go. You don't follow any type of standards. You just know your breaks is all you know. And it used to be, I think, on a 2-hour show, you had 7 breaks. And the breaks were like your actual wrestling time per hour was like 41 minutes that you could fill with wrestling content. Mm-hmm. And the other 19 minutes, or whatever it was, that's your commercials. I think that's your promos for the show coming up. And that's for advertisements, basically. So, and if you went over your 19 minutes, they just cut it off.
47.5 minutes of wrestling, official wrestling, on a 2.5-hour show. Can I also say that, like, the last segment was really good, and the first segment was really good, and everything in between was kind of boring?
That's filler.
Yeah. All right, we need to move on. You mentioned it briefly, but the masked attacker on Bron Breakker. Who do you think it's meant to be? Because it quite clearly wasn't Seth Rollins under the mask. So do you think it was meant to be Seth Rollins, or do you think it's meant to be somebody else?
Well, I don't know. Tell you the truth, if I knew, I'd be up there with the creative team.
What makes you think they know?
Wait a minute. I'd walk in there and say, guys, I guess you think you're fooling everybody, but you're not fooling me, by God. I know who that guy is, and I know who you want it to seem like he is. But me, I got the question. I think they've been using different ones just to throw people off, which is a smart idea, I would say. A lot of people thought it was a Logan Paul for a while. And who was the first guy they would come up with?
It was Austin Theory, who's now with, obviously, the Vision. Mm-hmm. But now obviously it's meant to be Seth. It's funny as well, because the commentators are saying, who is this masked man? As Paul Heyman is screaming, that is definitely Seth Rollins, what are you doing? But also he does the curb stomp, I guess, which is what Austin Theory was doing. I like a mystery, but they didn't I remember they didn't really follow up with the Austin Theory mystery. It's like they did it at Survivor Series, then he was gone for a week. Then they started following up the story, and then he just unmasked. So they kind of didn't really build the tension with that. Whereas this one, hopefully they will. But I like the idea that it isn't Seth Rollins because you could see the little blonde beard coming through, which I think probably only suits Logan Paul. But I think the idea is like, was it always meant to be Seth Rollins, but because he's still injured, he can't do the mask thing?
Well, until they fine-tune who this character is, that's a good talking point. But I've heard their viewing audience has gone down. So who are you going to debate this with? Somebody who doesn't watch the show? And this is another thing. When they went to 2 hours, 2 hours was between an hour and a half, which is hard to get, by the way, because they wanted on the hourly increments. Not an hour show, then 30 minutes, because that throws the TV station, throws their programming off. Not a lot of 30-minute shows they can put in there to cover it. But I think unless they really focus on who this character is, I think they need to this is what I would be interested in. Who is this guy? And assign a camera team to follow him. That would be interesting, but you never quite catch him. You know, you might catch him and then his hand goes over his face. I think that might be good. We're going to find out who he is. You think? Would you be interested in that?
Yeah,
One show.
yeah, but I'd like it to go for weeks because once again, the
Well, I'm
last time
saying
they did it, they didn't really do it.
you could knock on the door, and all of a sudden, it opens this far, and you just see his eyeball, and then he slams the door back and tells you to get out of here. Now you've heard his voice.
Does the door you're knocking on have a star on it, and under it it says "Masked Man"?
That is so stupid. It's good. I love it. Mask Man. Don't ask me to expose myself or something. That is good. I love that. But
Yeah.
sometimes things can be so stupid, they're actually good. So instead of his name there, his name is scrubbed out. Mask Man.
Yeah, just under
I love
no
that.
salesman.
Yeah. No salesman allowed.
Right, we will move on. The last bit of Royal Rumble stuff. This is the Women's Royal Rumble. Lash Legend. So she's kind of the new, I guess, prospect of the monster women, I guess. And over to you, Dutch.
How big is that lady?
Is she 6 foot? Big enough. I mean, she wears these massive platforms
She's
as well.
not as big as Jade Cargill, right?
I don't think so.
Hey, I met this woman one time. She was 6'10". That to me, I think she was going to get into wrestling somehow. But the thing about a big woman in wrestling is perfect because they don't got to do nothing. They just got to beat up those other little girls and they'll get a ton of heat doing that. And I think this girl that I met, I got a picture of her somewhere. I think, I tell you where I met her. You know who the Insane Clown Posse?
Yes, I know.
You ever heard of them?
Yeah.
They do a festival every year, a big one. And they'll probably have, and it's a 3-day festival. All I can say, it was somewhere out in the woods. And when I say out in the woods, that's what I mean. So I got invited. It was me and I think Tracy Smothers and Road Dog. He was on. So some guy had a limousine. So they said, meet the limousine wherever. And I said, limousine? It seated like 6-8 people. And the story about that was going up there, and it's at night because they have a couple of shows. They have daytime shows, then they have really nighttime shows, and the nighttime shows start at 11 o'clock at night. That's when they start because everybody's messed up, everybody's half drunk. They're doped
so was
up.
Road Dogg by the story, I believe.
Well, I'm getting to that. So Road Dogg got up there. And I noticed Road Dogg was sleeping all the way up there. And I asked him, I said, hey, you okay? Yeah, man, I'm fine. So we got up there and we were late. And the match that we were supposed to be in, our Road Dogg was supposed to be in, was just going to the ring. And they were already in the ring. And that's when the limousine pulled in, and they all was around, or the booker of the show, whoever he was, Road Dogg, you're in this match. This is your match. Get down there. So, so he got out like this. He's all 3 sheets in the wind. So they run him down the runway, and he tried to get into the ring and he missed his step, fell down, almost broke his leg. I don't think he even made it into the ring. So no sooner had he gone down there, he gets hurt before he got in the ring, and then he came back. He was probably in their sights for about a minute and a half. But most of that time, they were carrying him back up the ramp and get him back there. And he got him back and laid him down. That's the last I saw of him until we got ready to leave. Oh, man, crazy. But
Hey, where did this giant woman come in?
oh yeah, that's where I met this giant woman. The giant woman. I'm glad you reminded me of that. She was 6'10", and she was. I'm gonna look for that picture. See if I can find it. I can't do it now, but she was. I forgot the name they called her, but she should have got into wrestling. But oh, this was years ago. But I don't know if I don't think women's wrestling was ready for her. This was even before I started the thing with the knockouts in TNA. But she was the type that, and you know where I got my idea about really women's wrestling being a spectacle? Did you ever see Glow?
Mm-hmm. We talked about this last week, in fact.
Not last week.
I think it was last week we mentioned this, yeah.
Well, I think you're wrong.
All right.
It's more, we have talked about it before, but I don't think it was last week. But anyway, she should be perfect for that. She didn't have any wrestling ability, but she didn't need to have any because she was so big. If she just beat those girls up and give them one move and lay on top of them, and if she could talk, she'd be the Hulk Hogan of women's wrestling. And what am I talking about now?
We're going to move on, don't worry. We're going to go to AJ Styles. His very last match. Yep. You saw it. He didn't look like somebody who's about to retire.
No, it
was a great match as well. It's the best on the card, easily.
And it surprises me about AJ because I'd known him almost since, not the day he started, but he hadn't been wrestling long when I met him. And I met him in TNA, and I learned a little bit of his story. And he's from Georgia, and he asked me where I was from, and I'm from down south, so we got along pretty well. But AJ was almost self-trained, and how he got so good in doing his move was he was a gymnast, not a star, but he was a very good gymnast, which means he's got control or body control over everything on his body. Because you never saw AJ off balance in anything. So watching this match with Gunther, I will say one thing for the crowd. They had faith in AJ that he could take it over Gunther, and that held their attention. And I've said this before about Gunther. This goes back years and years and years ago. And I'm talking to old fans now that were familiar, and I've said this before, with Johnny Valentine. He's the second coming of Johnny Valentine. You never saw Johnny Valentine do anything, taking a massive bump or doing this or doing that. When you were punching him or drop kicking him, he didn't go down on the first one. You had to work. And finally, when he left his feet after about 30 minutes into the match, the people exploded. Because it's the first time he gave them any kind of a sign that he was getting tired or the match was taking a toll on him. So, and he wasn't even a great talker, but he talks slow and deliberate with a feeling of honesty. Now, honesty is is a word you don't throw in when you're talking about wrestling, but he had it. And I remember when I don't remember, but I've heard about it. Guys who was in the old mid-Atlantic territory and the old timers like me, we called it Charlotte, the Charlotte office. They got so hot there one time that they were running 7 days a week, and some days were like a double header. So they were running like they had an A show and a B show, and both of them were running double shows on Sunday. So because the people believed it. They believed that Johnny Valentine was what he was, Wahoo McDaniel. And when they would have matches, even in that big Greensboro, North Carolina Coliseum that seats, I think, 22,000 people, which is the Madison Square Garden of the South, they called it. And Wahoo would throw those chops so hard you could hear them all the way to the top. So anybody who sat there and said, "Oh, this is all fake," then they see the blood start coming from the chest, and you're going, "What the hell is this? These guys they're really hitting each other." But those were the days that before, and they didn't have like how many guys you think WWE has on contract?
Hundreds. With NXT, 100.
Ooh. They had nothing like that. They maybe had the Charlotte territory. Maybe I would say if they run 2 shows, they'd put 14 on the show. They probably had 30 guys and then some fill-ins. And that's what they ran and drew all that money with. Because most everybody meant something. And that's what you can get when you run a territorial operation. Because now you can make most of your talent seem like something. It would appear that WWE could do the same thing, but they don't. I don't know why they don't do that. I think they got too many guys that they don't pay attention to, but they're still on the cards. And, you're talking about Powerhouse Hobbs going down to the ring in Saudi Arabia, and nobody has said it. You could hear crickets because they didn't know who he was, basically.
Yeah,
basically. That was why they didn't say anything. They had no idea who Powerhouse Hobbs was.
So Gunther would go on Raw. We'll get back to the match in a minute, but it was, once again, it's by far the best match of the night. But then he goes on to Raw the next day, 2 days later, and now he's the career killer, Gunther. And now Dragon Lee runs out, attacks Gunther. This is weird. You tell me about this. So Gunther talks about, being the career killer, and he's got rid of Goldberg, he's got rid of John Cena, he's got rid of AJ Styles now. And then Dragon Lee, AJ Styles' former tag partner of the past year, runs in, starts attacking Gunther, and then he gets the best of him. And then after about 30 seconds, then Gunther grabs him, chokes him out, and then hangs him over the ropes. And I was thinking, this could be a good match, for next week or something like that. And then Gunther basically strangles him to death. And I was like, yeah, I'm not as interested in the match now. Because they've kind of shown you that even on the back foot, Gunther will murder him.
Well, but you were looking forward to a match the next week.
Mm. But they give you the finish pretty much there and then. I mean, you knew that he wasn't going to win, but still.
So if they brought the match back now, you wouldn't pay attention to it.
Well, no, because it's kind of a foregone. It already was a foregone conclusion, but it'd be nice to have Dragon Lee going up with a semblance of a chance, if you know what I mean. Okay,
the beauty about wrestling is this: he hung him up and left him out to dry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he just got his butt beat. Beauty about wrestling is let a little bit of time elapse. Now, I hate to do this with WWE because when I say, let a week or 2 go by, but WWE takes it, they do let a week or 2 go by, but they let a month or 2 go by. They overextend it. So I would say give him a couple of weeks and then have him come back and challenge him for one more match. Now, Dragon Lee's got the mask, right? That's the only thing he could put up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he'd have to lose his mask. So I don't think it's time for that.
That's interesting, yeah, because Gunther said, I will not wrestle AJ unless you put your career on the line. So that's a good idea. Yeah, put the mask on the line.
So Gunther now is in the position of demanding certain alterations to his match or consequences of his match, which makes it seem more. So I don't know what he could put up. And Dragon Lee may not be the right guy, but I think they have that type of formula or reasoning in the back of their heads.
Yeah, so it would be a Luchas de Apuestas record. You would have a record of Like all the, career on the line kind of thing, mask on the line, hair on the line, Wagers, essentially. He will wrestle you as a wager. But then, he doesn't put anything on the line. Everyone just wants revenge on him, I guess. Anything else to mention about AJ Styles? Because if it wasn't obvious enough he was retiring, when Shinsuke Nakamura posted that Instagram story where he wrote that definitely AJ Styles said he wanted to retire at the Royal Rumble. So it was already a foregone conclusion. But a couple of days beforehand, AJ Styles also submitted a load of trademark applications for his name and his logo they've been using prior, that kind of thing.
How do they know that?
Oh, that's public record. If you apply for, and you can get like alerts and stuff for that kind of thing as well. So if somebody applies for, like some sort of wrestling trademark, you can set up an alert to, contact you.
So he trademarked his name, and what else did he trademark?
I like the logos that he was using in WWE and prior as
Could
well.
he trademark a move?
No. That's up for grabs. What would you trademark? The Irish Whip?
But what's to do when he gets a guy upside down and
the Styles Clash, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you just like a body slam. Like if you were going to trademark a move, you do just a regular suplex so no one else could use it without paying you.
So you can't do that?
No.
Why not?
I don't know. Try it. See if you get away with it.
I will.
Try and trademark.
I'm going to tape it, and I swear I'm going to trademark it, and nobody will use it.
Try and trademark a schoolboy.
You know why they won't use it?
Go on.
It would look so bad. Nobody would want to use it.
One more thing about the match is AJ Styles passed out. He did not tap out like John Cena. So everyone passes out who's a main event star, apart from John Cena who taps. Why?
Well, I don't know why. Maybe it's because they lose, but they don't lose by what did Gunther? He didn't tap out. He just went. He was just gone.
AJ did, yeah.
Yeah, which is a good way. Hey, AJ, I found out one thing about AJ. About all the years I worked with him, he's inherently a very, very good finish guy. He can put that together. Now, he's putting it together for himself, so he knows what he can do. But put it together for somebody else is a different story. I think he can do it. And I started to say just a while ago that he trained himself. He came up from Georgia, worked the independent shows, and, WWF signed him before and didn't offer him enough money. He said, I can't do that. He said, I got a family, got a wife, a kid. He said, I can't go down for that measly amount of money. He said, hell, I can make that working around here. He said, working a job around here because they didn't offer him anything much. But what they do, they make him suffer for a while just to see if they're going to stay. So, but AJ, that's where he found TNA. And then he found Japan, and that made him some good money. TNA paid him pretty good money. And I think he's with TNA about, I don't know,
11 years, I think.
Yeah.
I think he left in like 2012 or 2013.
Yeah, a long time. And because Dixie liked him, she loved him. So, but I'd rather her like AJ than like somebody who had very little talent. And AJ was probably one of the most talented guys from the start that I've ever seen, except me, of course. I was very talented.
One more thing. LA Knight, he returned at the Royal Rumble, then he was on Raw. He made his presence felt on Raw when he attacked the Vision twice during the show. He was also wearing a t-shirt that said the word Unchosen, which fans are taking to be a reference to that WWE Unreal segment that we watched like a couple of weeks ago, I think. When he messed up the Money in the Bank thing and then Triple H read him the right act. What do you think? And this is, we're kind of putting two and two together here, but you might as well have just had a brass ring written on his t-shirt for all it mattered. It's the exact same thing. But what do you think of like running an angle based off of a behind the scenes reality show on that sense?
Well, that's the whole thing that wrestling is based upon. Is it real or is it not? Did it come from there or did he do something else? See, the thing you got to do in wrestling is make the people think outside the box. So if somebody goes in and gets beat in 2 minutes, then all the fans say, well, I wonder what he did wrong. He made somebody mad. So now doing it this way, they're thinking about it. And Triple H, I like the way Triple H like laid down the law to him, because he didn't say, like, I've had some bookers, not to me though, but I've seen them do it. They just raise hell and cuss the guy out. And that's not a way to do business. But Triple H seemed so believable, and he probably was believable, that, hey, you got to listen to what we tell you. If you don't, you mess the whole thing up. You mess the whole thing up, now it's all screwed. Now we're really going to get pissed off. What they were trying to tell him, we got to buy this. But now you wonder how much of that was a work.
Mm-hmm.
See, but that's because you got to blend those together. And is it real or is it not real?
Hey, well, name one reality show that actually had a semblance of reality to it.
Some of them did. But I mean, some of those where they, I can't remember their names, but some of them, it was there, but they have a story, and the story overrides everything. So, and that's all wrestling is a physical soap opera, is all it is. And you can sit back, I don't know, for 2 hours, 3 hours, or whatever it is, and watch it and enjoy it. If it's not the same thing over, hey, wrestling on its own, if you just had straight wrestling matches, how long would you watch that?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you wouldn't.
Yeah,
well, I don't know. It was good enough for World of Sport for 30 years. But the wrestling was great. And they told stories in the ring. They were actual storytellers physically. Like,
okay, we'll get back to this in a minute. But yeah, you're just going to watch wrestling so long, unless they didn't have some other attachments on whatever this guy does, or some other guys waiting on him. That always has to be in the background. And that's what you have the announcers for, to remind you what's going on with this guy and another guy. But the world of wrestling?
No, British wrestling. British style of sport.
What was the name of the World of Sports?
That was the programming block, but yes, just British wrestling. Like, they had rounds. There was like a story every 3 minutes, and there were in-ring promos and such, and the commentator was great. But yeah, you didn't need any of that stuff, because the majority of the performers were so great at telling a physical story in every match. And because of the rules, there were so many different ways to win and lose that, there was all sorts of jeopardy, and the rules were enforced as well, that you could get away with that. And now it seems like you can't. It's a bad example because we actually had a count-out on Raw. But, like, there were so few count-outs. There were not, like, every match, half the matches end in disqualification. The weapons don't mean anything anymore for the most part. They've killed all these tricks. They've killed all these ways to, engage the fans these days. That all that's left is to kick out if everyone's finished 18 times in a row before getting a pin. And that's pretty much all there is now. Whereas back in the day, they actually, things had consequences. You didn't need all
that's
the
another major
stuff.
That's another major gripe of mine. They hit 47 finishers and kick out of every one of them. Sometimes you think, well, the guy needs a gun. He needs to pull the gun out and just shoot the guy. And the guy goes down, 1, 2, he kicks out of that. What the hell's left? Give a stick of dynamite. Okay, boom, 1, 2, kicks out. What the hell? But And that's how you kill. That's how you kill finishes. And you'll kill that stuff deader than 6 o'clock. Yeah. Is that the saying, deader than 6 or deader than 2 o'clock? Anyway, but I'm agreeing with you there.
With LA Knight, are we putting a bit too much with the Unreal thing? I think that was a real situation that they ended up broadcasting, because I honestly do not believe that the WWE editors or whoever is editing it believed that by showing that segment with LA Knight getting very politely and very, directly read the riot act, and it was handled very well. But I don't believe them broadcasting that in their minds, or Triple H's mind, or whoever else thought this will get LA Knight sympathy. I think they just posted it out there. I mean, they could have really hurt his career with that, which I actually don't think they have, because LA Knight's just too popular.
Okay. Sometimes things like that happen. If you think outside the box, how can we manipulate this to monetize it? Is that the word, monetize?
Mm-hmm.
Make some money out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So by them showing that, I almost had it in my, almost wanted to pick LA Knight as the winner of the Rumble. Now it will look back. If you look back now, he's had something to attach that to. I think letting Roman Reigns, I think this is his, we're going ahead on his run. Having him win it was good. But I think having LA Knight win it, because remember how they pushed him and then they'd stop. Then they'd push him, then they'd stop. And then the same thing. They've done it 3 or 4 times. You said, all right, he's headed to the title. But he never got there. So letting him win the Royal, I think, would have been a great way to get him restarted. But they didn't do that either. So, hey, I'm guessing with them. We all were guessing anyway. But who knows? It may work one day.
Right, then one more thing, Royal Rumble based or WWE based, and then we're going to sort of move on a little bit, is Chris Jericho. Why hasn't he returned to WWE? So the theory out there was going that his contract was up at the end of December with AEW. He's not been seen on AEW television since April 2025. Now, there were theories going around for a long time that he would debut at the Royal Rumble. There were theories he'd be out.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question that's relevant in talking about Chris Jericho. When's the last time we saw him? Sometime in 2025?
Yeah, April.
Wow. It's been almost a year since we've seen him. So during that time that he's doing nothing, he's not appearing on TV, he's not contributing anything on the creative side, correct?
Yeah, I think he did a tour with his band. That's about it.
Yeah.
But that's not wrestling related, so.
So when he goes, does he still have to go to TV?
No.
So he's sitting home. I don't know what he's making.
He's making, I would suggest, well over $7 million a year. Well over $1 million a year. He was the first major signing of AEW from 2019. He was the first big name. He was their first champion. He was the guy that Tony Khan was hanging his hat on to get mainstream attention. And I'll also guarantee you that Jericho has not taken a big pay cut after that initial contract. So I would easily 7 figures a year he's making.
So they're not using him on TV. Why did they stop using him on TV? He got hurt or something? Or
no, I suspect that Tony Khan got wind that he wasn't going to re-sign. And that's what he does with most people. The only person he didn't do it with recently was Powerhouse Hobbs, because I imagine he didn't indicate that he wasn't going to re-sign. So, anyone who, from Mariah May to Penta to Rey Fenix, etc., if you give any indication that you're going to be leaving, he will take you off television immediately, even if you've got a year or more on your contract. And it's the same with Jericho.
So he's making $20,000 a week
plus,
and not even having to leave his house.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Well,
big money, but I'm saying, so He's making the money. He doesn't have to leave his house. What is does the company even still talk to him while he's off?
Probably not much, no.
Wow. Where was Tony Khan 20 years ago?
He was on online chat rooms talking about how much he liked wrestling. That's basically what he was doing. Right,
Yeah.
let me give you the story. So, according to a recent report by Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful, Chris Jericho's contract with AEW may have been extended, which would obviously mean that he will not be returning to WWE in the near future. So, this is what he says. The reason why so many people had expected such a thing, and I mean we even had it on our contract updates, our last known resources section, it was the fact that in 2022, after Brawlout, Chris Jericho, in solidarity with AEW, signed an extension that kept him through 2025. And now AEW and pro wrestling companies are not obligated to disclose contract extensions, freezings, or anything like that. So just because there is no word or nobody has reported that the deal has been extended past December 31st doesn't mean that it isn't so. As of today, Chris Jericho is still listed on AEW's roster page, which is a great indication of if somebody is still with the company. Sapp said. And he is. I checked a day or two ago. He is still on the main roster company, which is in February.
How old is Chris?
55. Hey,
Well,
he lost a lot of weight a few months ago as well, so he's definitely in shape for some kind of return.
Well, he may be in shape, but when people hear he's 55, 56, to me, he's an old guy in a young man's game. It's what he is. I don't care how good he is, and he is great. I've seen him do a lot of great stuff, and he hits all the points. But at 55, and if he's not going back to next year, I would say there is a possibility that he doesn't even go now as a talent. Let me say that. He may not go as a talent. He could go as a part of the creative team, but I don't think he wants to do that. Being in creative with those guys, I can tell you, I was on a small creative team in TNA. See if you have an idea that you think is great and you lay it out to them, and then you can see them, they'll be going, and these are guys who've never even put on a pair of boots. They're weighing, that sounds stupid. Of course, they don't say that, but you know they're thinking that. Because I bet there'll be someone there, if Jericho lays something out, they won't see it like he sees it. And I think if he came up with a couple of ideas that they crapped on, I think he'd be about done with creative.
He wouldn't do that. It's too stressful of a job for too little pay. Why would he ever put himself through that?
Why wouldn't he do what?
Why wouldn't he do that? It's like AJ Styles. I mean, he's a great finish guy, but I don't think he'd ever be an agent because he's made his money. He doesn't need to be.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you just take it. Essentially, you're taking a demotion.
So if he went, let's just go back to Jericho. If he went, other than a talent, what could he be? He could be a manager, I guess.
Like an ambassador for the company, like Titus O'Neil.
He could do something like that. Yeah. Yes, that's what I'm saying. He could do something like that. But otherwise, I don't think he fits in as a talent anymore.
So
he's probably better than half the guys they got now that are like almost a third his age.
If he's moving around better than he was in the last couple of years, I'd say yes. But the last couple of years, he was not moving well at all, and the matches were suffering for it. And once again, he was overweight, and he's now lost that weight. So it remains to be seen how well he can move now if he does get back in the ring. But as you were saying, well, how many months would you give Chris Jericho before you just retire?
What, and back in the ring?
Yeah, let's say AEW's got him under contract for another year. Would you just say, you think like the moment's passed by that point?
I think it's passed. I really do. When a guy hits that mid 40 mark, I mean, that clock ticks faster. Mm-hmm. Now, who is about 45 or 46 now?
CM Punk, the current world heavyweight champion, he's 48, I think.
I'll tell you another one that's up there too is Knight. What?
No, I think he's 43,
Knight?
maybe 43 or something like that. He's a few years younger. But AJ Styles was just pushing 50. He retired. So, yeah, hey, there's a lot of people. Hey, 50's a new 30 these days. I mean, there's so many different ways. They wrestle a lot less.
Not in wrestling.
To a point, though, because you wrestle a lot less. You get a lot less miles on your body. And you know, the rehab and training and everything's a lot better than it used to be, scientifically speaking, 30 years ago.
Well, if you think back the old schedules that we all had, I mean, you were traveling coast to coast, sometimes involved in something every day of the week, which you would have to get in the ring to do. You'd have to take some bumps. You'd have to do this. You'd have to do that. But there was no end to it. See, that's why they started having to give guys days off, because they were beat up. They were beat. Just the travel beats you up. If you're traveling, going through those airports, especially now, you're going from one end of the airport to the next, get on the plane, sit down, fly 4 hours, get off, rent a car, go to the town, wrestle, go back to the hotel, get you something to eat, sleep till the next morning. You got to get up, go again. That beats the living crap. I don't care who it is. It beat me up, beats everybody up. And they wonder why wrestlers drink and take drugs. Hell, a lot of them were drinking and taking drugs just to ease up on their bodies so they could get some rest.
Plus the fun. All right, let's move on.
That's right.
Plus their fun.
Well, they were fun to be with, especially when they got really half jammed up and they're tired anyway. Some guys are funnier like that.
Okay, then. Undertaker, kayfabe. I'm just going to give you the quote here, straight off the bat. Quote.
How do you guys feel about Unreal?
The actual presentation and everything is wonderful, right? From my aspect, in my end of the business, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I don't, everybody's going to say, oh my God, that's an old school guy trying to protect kayfabe. Look, I don't care if it's 2025, it's 1990, or it's 1984. Everybody understands what wrestling is.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Everybody knows.
100%.
Ain't no big veil been lifted.
Yeah.
Except I don't want to go to see a magician and know how he's doing everything. Yeah. And I understand that there's a huge part that like, oh, that's interesting. I want to do that. But there's still that aspect, because you tell me.
Yeah.
And I'll give you my perspective. Everybody knows what we do.
Yeah.
Right? But when I'm in the ring, my whole goal, my motivation is to get one person, just one person, to think, wow, Undertaker just clocked him.
Yeah.
I don't care what everybody else is doing. That right there, that was the real thing. So there's always the doubt. But anyway, no, that's my belief on it. Yeah. I don't think we have to throw it in people's face.
Yeah.
I think we've got too comfortable. I think we're too comfortable now in talking about our business. And I struggle on these podcasts too.
Oh yeah.
Because it's hard to talk. It's hard to talk and tell stories without without lifting it up a little bit. But I think we've gone too far. And again, I understand.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what it is what we do. But there's got to be a little bit of mystery.
So what he's saying is that he doesn't like WWE Unreal exposing the business, as he is on a WWE sponsored podcast exposing the business every week. Over to you, Dutch.
I'm in agreement with Undertaker. I don't much like it either. But a lot of that is you were told time after time after time when you first broke in, hey, don't let fans see you with your opponent. Even if you're in a store, you're shopping, you're not even on the same aisle, but just being in the store, they didn't even want you doing that. I remember at one time, Jerry Jarrett would fire you. And this is what they said. He would fire guys for being in the same convenience store at the same time, even if they didn't speak. Now, we say that because he wasn't firing any main eventers. He may have fired the first match, second match guys. He may have done that. But I agree with Undertaker. And he knows that, hey, the cat's out of the bag now. But even though the cat's out of the bag, here we are talking about it and talking about how else you can get people interested in a match or a series of matches. And that's what they're dealing with now. They know that the people know that it's not 100% legit. But I don't think, I think they know it's not that way. And I think they enjoy how you could rope them in to being able to look forward to a match. I did that one time. Again, I'm going to say I probably talked about it before. I made an angle out of a guy getting beat, and he couldn't win a match. And I started it with Barry Horowitz in Florida. And then we would start putting up, when he would say 0, and I think we started off 0 and 4. Then the next week we made it an issue. Then we would go with him crying after he lost another match, and then we'd flash his record 0 and 6, because we made the records actually mean something. And I finally ended up putting him in a main event, and it damn near sold out because he got over, because everybody can see themselves on the losing end of something. And no matter what they do, nothing goes right for them. So and a good baby face is you got to feel sorry for him because he's getting jacked around. But he's not getting jacked around by the promotion or anything. He's jacked around because he can't win. But he's actually very good in the ring. He just cannot get that 3 count on somebody else. Funny how that works, and I took it there. I've took it everywhere I've ever gone, and it always works. It works in reverse. So when you beat a guy, you can't go 2 weeks and beat him again, especially in a statewide, the way wrestling used to be, the little territories you would have. You'd have to beat him every week and make a big deal that the losing continues, and what's he going to do? And of course, your announcer has to feed into this. He has to reinforce what the people already know and interview the guy. But that's one of the easiest angles I've ever done, is the losing angle.
Yeah, but that's all well and good. But I mean, the Undertaker's complaining about exposing the business as he exposes the business on a weekly basis for money.
I understand that.
So is he a hypocrite then? Or are there levels to this because he's retired?
Wait a minute. A hypocrite in what way?
Well, because he's complaining about something that he does. Once again, he's exposing the business. He breaks character. He's talking about old stories and opponents and breaking it apart and, laying it bare for everybody, and he's paid to do so. But then he hates it when people do it. He hates it when Triple H does it, and that's a vanity project for him, WWE Unreal. So where's the distinction? Where's the line between what is good exposing the business and what is bad exposing the business? Because the Undertaker does. I mean, we do it, but he does it on WWE official programming or media. So where's the distinction here?
It's a good question, and I don't have an answer for it. I don't know. I don't think they know, and I think a lot of people may be able to give you an answer, but I don't think any answer would be suitable enough to even fit as an answer. it is, that old saying, it is what it is, fits perfectly here.
I think ultimately it's like, yeah, you can be a hypocrite, but ultimately if you say you hate it that much, then quit, because you don't need the money. And here's the thing, is that WWE, on every single show, they plug these podcasts. And it's like, hey, listen to these podcasts where we tell you how fake all this shit is every single week and how all the tricks are done. Like, they plug that on their own programming. There's something when I'm fine when we're independent. We're independent of any wrestling company. It's fine when we do it, in my mind, because that's how we make money. But when you, one, don't need money, two, complain about breaking kayfabe or, there not being enough secrecy around the business, but then you still do it on a weekly basis on WWE's, a WWE official production, that's what gets me, is you quite clearly haven't got as big a problem with it as you're making it out to be.
I'm speechless. I have no answer for that.
You know I'd be a good lawyer, don't you?
Oh, you would be a good lawyer. You would be a...
Fine. Get that white wig on. Good barrister.
I'm going to tell you a story.
Okay.
There was this big, and I'm not going to give any names. True story. There was this big heel.
Is it The Undertaker?
No.
No, right.
I didn't. This was years ago.
Okay.
This was this big heel. And he had an affair with this, a lot of people call them ring rats. I don't call them ring rats. I call them little ladies of the matches. So either his opponent was this big, really strong baby face that they had been doing an angle with. It was drawing big money. And I think one time the lady in the particular equation, she commented to the heel that she would like to see how the baby face was in bed. Then the heel says, sick bastard, he says, well, what about both of us in the bed at the same time? And so they got it set up for a three-way between the heel and the hot-ass baby face and this woman. And he was telling the story. And somebody asked him, says, well, what did y'all do when y'all was in the room together? He says, oh, I just didn't speak to it. And the guy telling me, I said, that's bullshit. He said, no, it happened. I said, no, it didn't. He said, yeah, it did. And he swore. He swore that it happened.
You should have asked who went over.
Well, I should have asked him that. So, but crazy things happen out there on the road that mostly the public well, they may hear about it here, but with no names. So the big heel and the big baby face do a threesome with this woman, but to show they were mad at each other, they just didn't talk to each other. I laugh like hell.
That's protecting the business, man. The Undertaker would have approved of that, I'm sure.
Oh, he would have liked it. Yes, he would.
All right. Let's move on. Ava, The Rock's daughter, is gone. Quote, this past Tuesday was my last appearance on NXT and subsequently WWE. Thank you to all who have cheered, watched and supported me through my journey. While my decision to not renew my contract was very difficult, it's also a new turning point in my life. It has been an honour and a privilege to be Ava. She then posted an anti-Ice tweet with a middle finger and then deleted her Twitter account completely, and she's disappeared. According to Body Slam, WWE offered to increase her salary to retain Ava in WWE, which is kind of weird because 2 weeks earlier they had fired her girlfriend. So they'd fired her girlfriend, then tried to re-sign her.
Who was her girlfriend?
Can't remember her name. Someone in NXT.
Well, maybe they should have known that they were going to fire her before, so Ava could have made a stand earlier. And I think Ava, she doesn't need the money either. So I think this wrestling is interfering with her carrying on with the rest of her life. And she may not even like wrestling. I think The Rock has said that, she loves it. Maybe and maybe not. I don't know. But, and I'm not saying anything about her athletic abilities, but she is horrible. She's not athletic. And her interviews are just, they're not good. So I think she got in because her dad was in, which is nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying, to be in this business, you have to love this business. So, and I didn't think she didn't have the love for it. She has the liking for all the things it can bring you, and living the high life and doing all this stuff and going all kind of places and all. But I think as a business, she doesn't like it.
Ava was terrible. She was the GM in NXT for 2 years.
I'm gonna call Rock, tell him you said that.
You should do. Well, apparently he's going to be the last to know, I guess. But yeah, she's bloody awful. She didn't come across as a GM. She didn't dress up like a GM. She wasn't a very good actress. She had no presence of authority. Like when you think of Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, they look great in the role. They bring a lot to the GM role in Raw and SmackDown. Ava didn't at all. And the weird thing was, right, she was all over the shows every single week. She's almost indispensable how much she was over the NXT shows, right? And then she just disappeared. So they've actually weirdly left it on a cliffhanger because it was Tony Nese, I think. So NXT is going to be on tonight, and they were going to do something with her and one of the other wrestlers to resolve a cliffhanger. Now she's gone. So what I'm saying is that she probably didn't give any indication she was going. But let me tell you this, Dutch. Ava started training in the WWE Performance Center in 2020, pre-COVID, so it was at the beginning of the year. It took her 2.5 years just to make it to television, and then it took her another 6 months after that for them to finally let her wrestle, because she was so terrible at wrestling. It took her 3 years to finally wrestle on TV, and they let her wrestle on TV the grand total of 6 times ever before they took her out of wrestling again and then made her the assistant GM and then the GM on NXT. And why I bring that up is because The Rock gave a quote saying that he was so proud of his daughter because she'd carved her own path in wrestling and that she never placed a phone call to him to get preferential treatment. And my argument is that when you are the daughter of The Rock, one of the biggest stars in WWE history, who you're trying to keep happy, there is no way that you're going to do anything except give Ava every opportunity and every chance in the entire world. And apparently The Rock, or maybe even Ava, don't even realise that.
No, I think The Rock does. I don't think he sits back and he said, I don't know why they don't give her more of a chance, because she's great in the ring. I don't think he would even self-delude himself to think, because she's not athletic. She doesn't move like an athlete moves. Her interviews really are just straight up. She has no emotion. And I'm not saying she's not good, but she doesn't fit the role. She really doesn't. And do you think she wanted to get into wrestling? Or
well, probably because she could do it right.
Forced into it, kind of.
No, she wouldn't have been forced into it. I'll tell you this, right? The Rock is obscenely rich, but you know what? Her mother, the Rock's ex-wife, Danny Garcia, she was extremely wealthy as well. She was, and that's nothing to do with The Rock. She just carved herself. I think she was a hedge fund manager, and she's made tons of money on her own. She's incredibly successful as well, and that's nothing to do with what The Rock was doing. They're just both two really successful, driven people, and great for them. Simone Garcia, which is Ava's real name, would not have wanted for anything, and I'll guarantee, not guarantee, but you better get into this wrestling business. You didn't need to do anything for the rest of her life, ever. So I think she just saw it and fancied it as an idea, and then it's a passing fancy and it's gone now.
Well, it must have been a passing fancy 5 years ago. Because you say it took her 2.5 years to work her way to NXT?
Yeah, but that was as a valet. It took another 6 months for them to let her into a 6-person tag match. And even like the limited spot she did, she was awful. I saw her once, I think it was with Ivy Nile, where she did like the spinning kick, which was tragic. And it was like a 3-minute match. And it's like, you've been on TV or training for 3 years, and she couldn't do a passable 3-minute match. But once again, it's the preferential treatment of anybody else who would have... They wouldn't have even hired her, for starters, because she's got no gifts for wrestling. But then, because it's The Rock's... Oh, here's the other thing. The exact same day that The Rock was brought onto the board of WWE and paid $30,007, Ava was made the GM of NXT. Like, the exact same day. It was almost like a package deal, amazingly. It's like, hey, well, you can't do anything else, so can we make you the most visible person on this show to please your dad?
Okay, did you think she ever made any inroads into getting over it all?
No, because there was another problem. They scripted her character so badly that she was the most incompetent general manager of all time. So her character was incompetent and unfair, and her acting was at best plain, and she would never get physical anymore or wrestle because she couldn't.
I guarantee you I could have got her over.
As what?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to study her, but there's something about her that she could have. I think if you looked, I mean, hopefully you're not looking so hard for any talent to get them over. Surely something jumps out at you. With Ava, I'd have to say nothing really jumps out at you. But there's got to be something that you could have got her farther than what she's gotten so far. So I don't know, but I'd have to study it. But I think I could have done a better job with her than they did.
Yes, I suspect maybe you could. We'll move on a couple more things, maybe 3 more. I'm going to get rid of that one anyway. Tommaso Ciampa, he has gone he's gone to AEW, so he was a mainstay of WWE for quite a number of years. He was tagging with Johnny Gargano as part of DIY, and then his contract was coming up, and it almost made it seem like he was just done with wrestling, the way he was talking. And then straight away, his contract comes up, he goes straight to AEW, and his first match there, he beats Mark Briscoe for the AEW TNT Championship. So, a big old... a boon to him. And essentially, he said it's something I'd been leaning towards for quite some time. He told to Sports Illustrated, I don't know that I can say there's one sole factor that led to it, leaving WWE or caused it. I think it's one of those things where your contract is coming to an end and you naturally have discussions. Essentially, he says, if it was in the 90s, he would have been part of ECW. If it was the 2000s, he would have been a Ring of Honor mainstay, which he did wrestle there a bit. He was happier in NXT. I think he just didn't like the main roster culture of WWE where you only get so much in-ring time. And I think basically he wanted to wrestle more and be more of a solo star, and that is what he has done now. So any thoughts on Ciampa, basically, and what you thought of him as a performer? And I guess he's getting paid very well with AEW because they're opening that checkbook, baby.
No, I liked his style. I think there was a lot they could have done with him that they didn't do. See, he's not that big. So the AEW style fits him more because the guys are not that big. If you look at AEW, most guys are like 5'10", maybe 220.
It's the inverse of Powerhouse Hobbs, isn't it? He was too big for AEW, and now he's not that big in WWE. But Ciampa is kind of average size now in AEW.
Mm-hmm. So that's the trademarks of the different companies, and I think he made a wise choice going to AEW. See, what do you think most guys are wanting when they first get into wrestling? What do you think they want the most?
Just ring time.
No, I mean in their personal life and their whole thing that surrounds their life.
Oh.
What do you think by getting into wrestling? What do they want? They want the money, they want the glory, they want this, they want that, or what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They want to pay, they want a car, they want to buy a house, or at least a down payment for a house. You know, if they're making tons of money, they want to buy the parents a house, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would think so too. But we talked about Brad Armstrong a couple weeks ago. I think he just had a tremendous love for the business itself, minus of course, you got to have money to sustain yourself. I know that. But he wasn't selfish in the ring, and he just wanted to wrestle. I think, how do you say that guy's name we're talking about? Ciampa?
Ciampa. Tommaso Ciampa.
Ciampa. It looks like it's spelled C-I-A-M, I think.
I
Start of it.
Yeah.
But it's got an H sound there, like Ciampa. I've heard that, but I never could make it work for me. But he was very good. And what was the last angle he was doing with his partner?
He was kind of just in the background, I think.
That's what I'm saying.
With like Ilya Dragunov was challenging like Johnny Gargano. So he was already kind of being shunted into the background. And hey, you know, if you're not being used, and I'll tell you what, I mean, it's one thing to get some extra money in your pocket. There's another thing to be creatively fulfilled as well and being happy and everything. But also, if you can see your career's kind of like going down a bit, then why not move? Keep yourself fresh. And if you intend to be in the wrestling business for another 5-10 years or more, it's the best thing. Freshen yourself up and prove yourself again.
Okay, that same theory that you're talking about right now is the way the business used to be. Because, you know, when you go to a territory, they would only have like 16 guys on the roster anyway. So if you went in there and you got over and you did well, after about 9 months, it was time to go. And then you would go to the next territory and they would be turning over talent too. That's the way it almost self-booked itself years ago. The old system, because you say you go to Memphis, you spend 9 months in Memphis, now it's time to go. Because once you've hit that main event and then you went back down, the only thing you can do then is you will get less and less. And why not go to the next territory and redo exactly what you did in Memphis because it worked there. And you take the blueprints over there with you. So this is what we did. We can do the same thing here. And a 9-month run or a year run in a regular territory was a good run. Now, you've had guys, of course, make a career of it. Some guys be there 20 years. But that's because the promoter liked them and they were easy to work with and the people knew them. But you can't have everybody staying there so long because then you're just pretty soon you're going to hit that brick wall and you're not drawing anything. But I think Ciampa has the right idea. You ever met him?
No, I've not. I've not met him.
I haven't either. I've never met him either.
Yeah.
Maybe I did. Oh, I know who you're talking about. I slapped him one day just for saying hello, and he said it in the wrong way. And I just
is that why I grew a beard, do you think, to sort of like cover up the bruise?
No, I've never met him. So
we'll move on. Well, you know, it's one way to keep yourself fresh in the business. It's another way to keep yourself blackballed from the business, and that is smelly wrestlers. So Ricky Morton quoted this one. He said, "Hygiene in pro wrestling is not optional. If you're stepping in a ring, wash your gear, wash yourself, and have some respect for the people you're working with. Nothing ruins a weekend faster than someone whose stuff stinks. Big pet peeve from this past weekend. Rant over."
Yep.
All right,
true.
Then. Do people not learn this in wrestling school now?
You know who the smelliest wrestler I was ever around?
Was it Ricky Morton, ironically?
No. Balls Mahoney.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I don't know. I asked him one day, I said, Balls, they got this thing and it's called a washing machine. I actually told him that. And I says, you take a quarter or 2 quarters, put it in there, throw some detergent in there and let it wash. And then you had to rinse it and spin it dry. Then you take it and put it in the dryer. The same thing, a quarter or 2 quarters, put it in there, push your button, and it dries it. So your stuff stinks like, I don't know, it was awful. I've had fans tell me, said, what? They would walk by them and they'd go, my God. So you imagine getting in a ring with somebody who was stinking like hell. So you imagine if his clothes was that disgusting, what is his body like? So I've worked with him a time or two, and I told him the same thing. I said, boss, next time if we're booked anywhere, you better take a damn shower and please wash your clothes. Because, and I can understand why, because you're out on the road, you're taking care of yourself. A lot of guys are not even capable of doing that unless they got a wife or something. And I don't know how she could work her way through the stench. But I said, you got to take care of yourself. You got to clean this stuff up because other people are. And I said, if you want to get run off fast, keep doing what you're doing. And I'm telling you right now, if I forgot where we were, I said, if we was in Puerto Rico, I said, if Carlos, you get in a ring with Carlos like that, you're done. I said, then they're not going to put up with it. So I think he cleaned himself up for a while, but.
We jumped in the sea, maybe.
Yeah. Too much.
I know. Have we got a list of people? Because I've got a follow-up story here. Have we got a list of people that stank in the ring that you'd prefer not to wrestle?
Well, I can't remember their names now, but I seemed like the stench would have remained with me. Most of the guys, that's just respect. Respect for the people you're working with and respect for yourself. So if they don't want to do that, I mean, I've had promoters come out and tell the whole dressing room that they need to clean their stinky asses up. And we'd all look at one guy, whoever he was, we'd look at him and he'd be looking around. And we'd all say, yeah, he was talking about you. You know that, right? You know that. And he cleaned himself up. Sometimes you have to use a little embarrassment to get them there. If you just go for pride and respect and all that, but if you embarrass them, okay, you might get it done. But I hated that because, and this is why some guys in wrestling, it's why they get sick. Because can you imagine a stinky guy sweating all over the place, sweating on the mat, and you're down there rolling around in it? I've told a few promoters to wash their mats too. I said, the next time I come here, which hopefully will be never, but if that mat's not cleaned up and washed, I'm not working on it. So don't bring me if you're going to bring a dirty mat. I'm not going to get on it. Because that's how you get you can get all kind of, if you get a scrape on your arm or something and you put it down in the wrong place in the ring, it gets infected, you could die.
Bradshaw told a story not too long ago that he was feuding with Vader, and Vader stank so bad that he got him in a headlock or what, I don't know what it was. Basically, got his stench in his mustache. That Bradshaw ended up being clean shaven throughout his entire feud with Vader just because he couldn't get rid of the smell.
Wow.
I never knew that because he was clean shaven for like a few months in '98, and I thought it was because he was turning heel. No, it turns out that just Vader smelled so bad he permeated his mustache to the point he couldn't wash it.
No, I remember him talking about that. He said a dead dog. A dead dog would have a better aroma than Vader. And I don't know why. I have no idea why he would just. I don't think he had to smell like that in Japan. They would tell him to. Oh, well, anyway. Yeah, Vader was another one.
Yeah, we'll move on. A couple more, and then we'll leave this for the week. Bruce Pritchard said this about Juventud Guerrea. Now, you booked Juvi in Puerto Rico. You worked with him a couple of times. So this is what Bruce had to say about Juvi.
Just a problem child and just horrible, horrible attitude. Man, he just thought he was the cat's meow and he was the shit. And he had charisma, big time had charisma, but he had an attitude to go with it. Wasn't as good as he thought he was, but just had a really shitty attitude and wasn't getting in shape, wasn't doing anything. And when you boil it all down, it wasn't that good. But he had the attitude of like, boy, you'd have thought that he was the biggest thing ever if you asked him. But didn't come to work on time, just a problem child and just horrible, horrible attitude.
So you booked him, you worked with him in 2000, I think. Puerto Rico, your opinions of Juvi?
I didn't much like being around him either, because it was that I'm above this. I'm above being here with you guys. He was above everybody, and you got that feeling from him too. Juventud, and he was hard to deal with because he was. And I've had other guys do me this way too. You give them the layout of the match, and you can tell from the beginning they don't like it already. They don't even know what the finish is, but they don't like it just to begin talking with it. So you could imagine if you wanted to take the fall on him, oh my God, it was like the end of the world. And I told him, I didn't book him. The owner of the company booked him because they were friends.
This is Victor Quinones, yeah? IWA.
Victor Quinones. And I told Victor, I said, I don't care who you book, Victor, or bring in from Mexico or Japan or whatever. I don't care. Don't ever bring him back. Because if you bring him back, you'll be handling everything he does because I can't deal with it. And I agree with Bruce 110% because he was above everybody and better than everybody. I don't care who was in their dressing room. He was better than they are. And he made no effort to hide it either. So, and that's what you run into with wrestlers every now and then. Not everybody. Most of the people are very good people, very nice to get along with. But some of them are just buttholes. And they just, even if you went out of your way to not to create, a sticking point, they'd find one. They'd make it up in their own head. So, and some of them, if you told them to do a job, it's like you said, hey, you mind if I cut your arm off at the elbow? Oh, it was unreal. Those were the people who needed to be told that this business is a work. Because they thought they were really doing it, or they didn't want to do it because so-and-so was in the crowd and so was here and so was there. Vince had for years, and you heard the same thing. When you went back to your hometown and you were working for Vince, he beat you. He beat you every time you went to the town. I don't care if you were there 15 years, you never won a match in front of your hometown fans. And what he feared, I have no idea. But I think he had learned his lesson that if they get over to hometown, they could start their own company there. And he didn't, and I don't think he had that much to worry about. But in his head, he did. So.
How many weeks did he last, Juvi?
Oh, he only came in for like a weekend anyway. That's all he did.
Man, he gave you that bad of an impression in like 2 days. Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I think he may have been there 2 weeks. But Victor Quinones brought him in because he wanted to party with him. See, Victor Quinones is really a study about a tightwad with money. When he would go to Japan, and he would go for just go and go and go. what was that opposition? The opposition group that started the shoot fighting over there. What company?
UWFI. Well, there was
Yeah.
loads of versions of UWF there.
I
yeah.
think he was with the first. What is it? Iteration of the first version,
Yeah, that'd be 84 or so, I think.
something like that. And he was getting that started. But what he would do, he would bring all kind of gimmicks with him, all kind of T-shirts, all kind of this, all kind of that. So he would go over there, and he would get his money. He became a manager. I don't know what they paid him, but he made his money off selling the gimmicks on the street. Because some of those T-shirts you couldn't get over there. It was the days before Amazon and the days before Temu or whatever you call that. So when he brought it over there and he sold it for top dollar, and he'd have it shipped over. He wouldn't just take something in his bag. He would send those big wrapped up boxes, and he'd probably leave with $10,000, $20,000 just from selling it on the street. So he knew how to make money because his family had money to begin with, but he knew how to stretch it.
We'll either do one or two more. I might save one for next week. Billy Gunn, not in the top 200 wrestlers, according to who else? Dave Meltzer. So
Your friend.
Gordon Bennett. Dave Meltzer claimed that Kyle Fletcher is twice the wrestler that Billy Gunn was on his best day, and then he further doubled down. Billy Gunn, quote, on his best day isn't half the wrestler Kyle Fletcher is today. Kyle Fletcher legitimately might be top 5 to 7 in the world. Think Billy Gunn was ever in the top 200? And then he doubled down on this again. Here's the quote. And he actually said that top 200 for Billy Gunn might be too nice. He said, there are thousands of pro wrestlers. This sort of a pet peeve of mine. People think that only wrestling is in the US and the only good wrestlers are in the US. If I say top 200, do you know how many great wrestlers there are in Mexico, in Japan, and the US? There's hundreds. Saying a guy is not top 200 is not an insult. Actually, it's probably too nice. If I say somebody is in the 200th best wrestler in the world, that's a compliment. People won't take it that way, and obviously some people didn't. And if you only watch WWE, you're like, oh my god, he's out of his mind. What's he talking about? There are so many great wrestlers in the world. If you actually listed, then you'd be surprised. Okay, so he's comparing to Kyle Fletcher, who's saying he's top 5 to 7 in the world. He isn't. But he's got
Meltzer. He just needs to shut the F up because he displays how ignorant he is about the wrestling profession by even saying something like that. And what purpose of it is it anyway? Yeah, Kyle Fletcher, I guess, is good. But could he draw? I think most people identify the wrestlers by how much money they drew, how many tickets they sold, how many pay-per-views they sold. Kyle Fletcher, I don't think you could pay people to watch him.
He's really good, and he will be like a big superstar in the future, but he's still a prospect in my eyes. He's not there yet. He could be there soon, but like Billy Gunn was one of the most popular tag teams of all time. He was like, him and Road Dogg were like one step under Steve Austin in popularity. Yep. Kyle Fletcher, I will bet my bottom dollar, will never be that popular because the Outlaws, in the most popular era of the WWF, apart from the Hulk, on par with the Hulk Hogan rock and wrestling connection era, they were about the second or third most popular act in the world, in the most popular time in wrestling history. Kyle Fletcher will not be that.
No. Hey, I've never met Kyle Fletcher, but he looks like he can really go. But I'm saying, he doesn't look like that to most people, I think. When they see him, they're going to say, well, he's not a big guy. What is he? 5'8"?
No, he's 6'4". He is big.
Kyle Fletcher?
Yeah, he's a tall guy. He's deceptively tall.
I don't think he's that tall.
I'm telling you, well, he's built. He's not like Adam Cole, and they called him 7 foot when he was like 5'1".
Look him up right now. Look him up.
I promise you, I'll look it up. I was a tiny bit wrong. He's billed at 6'3". He's not a short guy. He's a tall guy. But, once again, it's like, well, Billy Gunn was one of the biggest stars in, the biggest company.
But he's
in his hottest
legitimately
era.
about 6'5".
Yeah. But it's not a height competition. It's like, he's proven himself with, a decades-long career, including in the most popular time in wrestling history, pretty much. Or one of the most popular times in wrestling history. But then how is he not in the top 200 in any given year, and yet Carl Fletcher's in the top 5, according to Meltzer only, because he likes movement, and that's it.
Are we back taping now?
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't saving that for the pause.
Kyle Fletcher, can he talk? Can he do an interview?
Yeah, he's all right. In fairness, Billy Gunn was never a good interview.
No, he wasn't. But I'm saying Kyle Fletcher, and I thought he's like 5'10", 5'9". That's what I thought. Because that's what he doesn't look 6'3" on TV. Does he?
It doesn't help that Don Callis is very tall, pretty tall as well, because Don Callis is 6'2". That's one of the problems of having a really large manager with a head like a hot dog.
Yeah, they didn't want managers bigger than the guys.
Slick.
But Kyle Fletcher, I don't care how much Meltzer likes him, it's not going to help him get over more at all. He can put all the information or all the push in there for him to get there. I don't think he'll ever get there.
He creates pushback. Dave Meltzer creates pushback on wrestlers that he likes because him and his own little opinion in his own little world can never be wrong. He's always right, and he quantifies what makes a great wrestler.
But I'm thinking Meltzer has been around this crowd for so long. I think he now is working an angle on everybody else. I think when he says something like that, he's going to see how much feedback or brushback he can get on it. And he doesn't have to say a lot. He'll just say one little thing that he's probably the top 5 or 7 best pro wrestler in the world. And of course, he's going to have pushback on that because nobody believes it. But anyway, I will say one thing. Meltzer's been very successful. He had an idea. Oh, I'll just write about this wrestling thing and put it out there, and it'll be a 50 cents a copy or whatever, and expanded it. And now he's got, how many followers does he have now that belongs to his?
Don't know. They don't publish those.
You think it's 5,000?
No idea.
Well, have an idea. Throw me a number.
100. I don't know. I don't know how many subscribers they've got. They don't announce
100. Well, hey, 100 at $1,000 a subscription is not bad.
Yeah, if you're charging $1,000 a subscription, that's not bad. Yeah, no. The point is that I don't even think he's doing it on purpose. He genuinely just thinks his word is gospel. But the point is that he is stoking tribalism while decrying tribalism at the same time by making such a stupid comment that Billy Gunn is never in any year was the top 200. But the thing is like the criteria for what keep in mind, this is somebody who once said that one match was better than another match, like not opinion based. He said it was definitely better, and his source was his own star rating. It's like no, I rated that higher than that one, so therefore it is better. Like
So
there's
if I
only
rated
absolutes by someone who's got fucking horrible brain damage apparently, if he has a brain. You know what I mean? It's that kind of absolutism. Is that kind of bizarre. It's the bizarre anti-way of logical thinking, this circular nonsense where I'm right because I've proven I'm right with my own logic. You know what I mean? That's about it. And then some people still fall for it.
Well, Meltzer never liked me and didn't like my matches. He didn't like nothing. So, but I didn't give a crap. But I remember one time Smoky Mountain had just started up, and we were in some town, had a nice arena though. And he showed up, nobody knew he was coming, and sat out there and watching the matches, not in the back, watching it on the monitor. he I can't get that off, but he sat down in a chair ringside, the back row. He did get back there and started taking notes about the match. And he come back and he had, I don't know, a little notebook, and it was all full of notes about the card. So, and I knew that he was going to write in depth about the show that he had attended in Smoky Mountain. But see, he got all his stuff from guys calling him up. That's how Bruiser Brody used to call him up. See, he loved that when they would call him and they would give them what they would tell him what's going on. Well, he didn't try to check anything else, or he may not even had a source to check it against. But in the next Observer, it would all be written out what the guy had told him. So they could be telling him bullcrap. He wouldn't know, but he would accept it as what they call the gospel, and he'd write it.
Well, there's enough people over the years who have said that I've written in with proof wanting a retraction, and they've been ignored.
Oh yeah, he's not going to do that.
Yeah, because that would admit you're wrong.
A retraction would be an admission of not writing the truth, or not citing the facts. Yeah, and he's not going to do that.
Yeah, it's got worse because I know, because they've told me that more than one person who is associated with that website, the Wrestling Observer, have told me that he's, one, completely changed over the last 10 years, where he's just completely insufferable, and two, that he's just a dick. And even people who work for him don't like him.
I've got to say, he's just a dick, and I mean that in the kindest possible way. But yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, anyway, it's just exhausting. And to be honest, I will pile on him forever for when he used your health issues to try and score points against you. So he is open season for the rest of time, as far as I'm saying, because he's scum.
Bastard.
He's absolute scum.
Oh, I could walk up and I don't say I don't like Dave Meltzer, but I don't like him really. But I could sit down and have a conversation with him. I could say that and just tell him in a kind of a nice way, like Triple H told LA Knight that he screwed that finish up. It'd be like that, but
yeah. But I think it's the worst thing about the wrestling business, though, genuinely, as far as anyone with any prominence, because he is more than anybody else stoking tribalism in pro wrestling. He is so biased.
Now,
it's
tribalism, you mean one group against the other?
Yes, and it's completely unnecessary. And like, there was another video the other day where he said AEW Dynamite has beaten Raw in the ratings. No, they didn't.
When did they do that?
Well, he didn't. That's the thing. He just said they did, but didn't produce anything even remotely related to proof. He just said it, and then somehow they didn't beat SmackDown in the domestic ratings, despite the fact that SmackDown had like 500,000 less viewers. So, but there was no caveats. There was no like live or same day or anything like that, as far as I can tell, with their own video they produced.
Yeah, since you're talking about ratings, what is Raw doing now?
The last Raw rating I know of was 1.45 million, but that's watched over 7 days. Because with streaming, very few people watch live. So you kind of work it out on a 7-day cycle.
So you don't remember the days when they was doing 4 million viewers, 5 million.
Because I was watching, yeah.
You were watching then.
Oh yeah.
Great show then.
They were doing, you know, some segment. The most watched segment in WWF Raw history was, I believe I'm right in saying, Steve Austin versus The Undertaker, and it was like, I'm not sure it's the week after, but the week after Owen Hart had died. It was somewhere around like the spring of 1999, and I think they brought in like 11 million viewers or something ridiculous like that. One match is incredible.
I don't believe that.
In 1999, man.
Can you prove it?
As much as Meltzer can prove it. No. I think that's right.
I'm accepting your word then. Hell yeah.
Hey, no, I think that's right. Or near
Don't
enough.
stop at 11. Go to 17.
Do you know what the funniest thing was? Is I think before that match, the most watched segment in Raw history was like Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe versus the Mean Street Posse or something crazy. That had been like the most watched for a while. Right, we're going to have to end it there, Dutch. I'm sorry, because we do.
I'm just getting started.
Oh, yeah, that's why we're going to do Ask Dutch Anything next.
Okay.
All right, okay, everybody. We're going to see you back on Sunday for Ask Dutch Anything. Once again, questions for dutch@gmail.com. That's how you submit questions to this show. We are many weeks behind, so we will get to it eventually if the question is good enough. And all there is left to say, everybody, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again once again on Sunday. Everybody, we the people.